Hey guys, okay, so today we're going to be working on the review for test number 7, which is tomorrow, also the day everything for this unit is due. So make sure before you leave, you check underneath grades to see what you are missing and pick that up. That way you can turn it in and get credit. Alright, so we're going to jump right into it. Problem number 1. Let's read what it says. It says, dog boarding. A dog kennel boards dogs for $8 a day. So that's important right there. The kennel will also groom a dog for $12. If you board your dog at this kennel and have him groomed, the cost can be found using the equation C is equal to 8 times D plus 12. The first question asks us, if you were to graph this function, what would the 8 represent in the graph? Well, the 8 would be the number in front of the variable, which we know, because y equals mx plus b, is going to be our slope. What would the 12 represent? The 12 would represent the y-intercept, which is 0, 12. And that is only if you get the dog groomed. You don't board the dog at all. So those are your two answers, part A and B, for problem number 1. Let's move on to problem number 2. It says to find the x and y intercept of negative 4x plus 7y is equal to negative 28. Well, to find our x-intercept, which we're going to do first, we know that the y has to be 0. So we're going to cover up the y. It's gone. What are we left with? Negative 4x is equal to negative 28. And we know that all we have to do to get x by itself, because the negative 4 and the x are multiplying, is going to be to divide both sides by negative 4. By doing that, we now have x by itself. We know two negatives are going to give us a positive, and we know that 4 times 7 is going to give us 28. So our x-intercept over here is going to be 7, 0. Now let's move on to the y-intercept. So we're going to do the same thing, the cover-up method. We know for the y-intercept that the x has to be 0. So we're in charge of finding that second number. So if I cover up the x, I'm left with positive 7y is equal to negative 28. So that's exactly what I'm going to write. Divide both sides by 7 to get y by itself, and you will have y is equal to a positive and a negative will give you a negative 4. So our y-intercept here is going to be 0, negative 4. And we're finished with that problem. So problem number 3 and 4, they go together. It says answer the questions using the following information. The percent in decimals y of battery power. So y is talking about a percent. Now we know percents, we don't really like to use percents, we like to use decimals. So 100% is going to be a positive 1. Remaining x hours, so x is for hours, after you turn on a laptop computer is y is equal to negative 0.2x plus 1. So question number 3. The x-intercept, we know x-intercept was talking about, was our x? Hours. And the y-intercept, this is the percent, we'll say battery percent, or percent of battery, is 0, 1. So it's a fully charged laptop. What is the interpretation of the intercepts? So if we were to sketch this graph out loosely, we know that our slope is negative, meaning we're going to have a graph going down, like I drew in blue. And I'll move this up for everyone in the back. So it's going down. We know we're going to start with a fully charged battery up top, and then as time goes on, it's going to go away, and soon the laptop's going to die. So which one talks about that? Answer choice F. The x-intercept is the number of hours, 5. Okay, that sounds good. It takes to get to 0% battery. Well, yeah, eventually it's going to die. And the y-intercept is where the battery power starts. So far, that looks like a really good answer choice, so I'm going to put a check mark there. G says the x-intercept is where the battery power starts. Well, we know the x is about hours, so we cross that one out. H says the x-intercept is the number of hours. So far, good. 0, it takes to get to 5% battery. No, not good. So cross out H. And J, the x-intercept is where the battery power starts. Well, right there, battery power is not the x. So the correct answer is F. Answer choice number 4. After how many hours, so we're looking for x, is the battery power at 40%? Hint, 40% is 0.4. Well, we know we're looking for hours, which is our x. So this 0.4 must be our y. So we're going to look at the original equation, back on top. And everywhere there's a y, we're going to put 0.4. And we're going to solve for x. So I'll scoot this up. And you're going to want to write a little bit small here. Make sure you fit everything. 0.4 is equal to negative 0.2x plus 1. Now our whole goal, get x by itself. So I'm going to switch colors real quick. I want x by itself, so I'm going to box it in and anything attached to it. Now I need to get rid of this positive y. If it's a positive positive 1, subtract 1 on both sides. If I do that, then I'm going to get a negative 0.6 is equal to negative 0.2x. Now I know the negative 0.2 and the x are both multiplying. So easiest way to get rid of it is to divide by negative 0.2 on both sides. And this is when having a calculator comes in handy. And I can tell you right now, 2 negatives is going to give you a positive. 2 goes into 6 3 times, even though they're both decimals. So 3 is equal to x. And what did we say x stood for? Hours. So which answer choice has a 3? B. So the answer for number 4 is B. Alright, ready? Go ahead and flip the page so we can start on problem number 5. It says a submarine ascends from the depth of 6,000 meters. So right away we're getting numbers and we're getting some important information. So ascends means to do what? Hopefully, said it's going up. At a depth of 6,000 meters, at a rate, which is a key word, we're talking about slope now, of 1,500 meters an hour. The depth of the submarine can be modeled by the equation d is equal to 6,000 minus 1,500h. Use the x-intercept of the graph of this function, so we're going to have to find the x, to determine how many hours it will take the submarine to reach the ocean's surface. So what do we know about x-intercepts? We know that the y is always equal to 0. But we don't have a y. We're using the variables d and h. Well, hours is for h, which is time. And time is always going to be independent. And the independent variable is x. So h is our x, d is our y. But remember, we're going to replace y with 0. So I'm going to do that right here. 0 is equal to 6,000 minus 1,500 h. Now remember, we're looking for h. We want to know how many hours is this going to take. So I'm going to box in the h and anything attached to it, including the sign. So I have a positive 6,000 I need to get rid of. So I need to subtract it on both sides. 6,000 minus 6,000 goes away. 0 minus 6,000, negative 6,000. And then everything else in my box comes straight down. The last and final step to get h all by itself is going to be to divide both sides by that 1,500. And don't forget it's negative. That goes away. And this is when having a calculator is super helpful. That's a 15 right there, just in case you're wondering. Got it from my box, which is in that equation right here. So when I do this, I will get h is equal to 4. So what does that mean? It's going to take 4 hours for that submarine to reach the ocean surface. Alright, so now let's go away from here for a little bit. And let's look at problem number 6. There's 2 parts. Now I know the camera, I don't think it's picking up those words too well. It's hours in charge, and then 3 of toys and cost plus shipping. I think it should say cost of toys instead of 3 of toys. That's what it should say. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the first part. Find the initial charge. Well, we know the word initial is a key word. Anytime you see initial or starting, we're always talking about the y-intercept. And what do we know about the y-intercept? The x is always going to be 0. And the unit cost for the situation best described. We know the word per means to multiply, so we're talking about our slope. So they want us to find our y-intercept and our slope. So let's look at this graph. What is our hours going by? Hopefully you said plus 1. It's going by 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We know the next number would be 5. Now we're missing our initial here. We're going to find that in a minute. But we need to find out what this table is going by. So if I do my little triangles, my rate of change, to be technical or exact, as some of you would say, 55 to 65, that's 10. 65 to 75, 10, and 10. So my cost per hour, or my charge per hour, is going to be $10. But to get to my initial, I'm not going to add 10 to 55, that's going this way. I need to go backwards, so I'm going to subtract 10. So 55 minus 10 will give me that 45. That's the initial charge for whatever the situation is that we're working on. Alright, let's go to the next part. We're going 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. We know that this is going by 3s. And then here we have $20.50, $35.50, and then $50.50, and so it's going on, so on, and so on. So we know the 50 cents is going to be there no matter what. So let's focus on the 20 to 35. What is that difference? Hopefully you're saying 15. If I was to add 15 to 35, that'll still work, and still work. Now, if I was to write this out, cost per toy, I would have my change in y, in this case 15, over my change in x, which is 3. But I know that 3 can go into 15 evenly. We know that's going to go into it 5 times. So the cost per toy, $5. The shipping fee, got to work backwards now. So what is 15 minus $20.50? Hopefully you grabbed a calculator and you got $4.50. Just like that. Okay? Alright. Number 7. Parallel lines have the blank. Let's finish that. What do we know about parallel lines and their slopes, to be more specific? They have the same slope. And the slopes of perpendicular have the opposite reciprocal. And reciprocal is just our fancy way of saying what? Hopefully you said the flip. Flip our fraction. So let's do part 9 really fast. Part 9, A, B, and C. Determine whether each of the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. On your test, I did not use the word neither. I used oblique, meaning they're going to cross, but it's not going to form that perfect 90 degrees like that. So we look at our, you have 2, and you have negative 1/2. So what you need to do is, is it the same thing exactly? No.